I think while we wait, while the light is switched on and while people think about their questions, I will ask the first. I would like to listen to your opinions since both of you, I think, spoke about similar topics, so your opinions might differ. So I want to ask, at what moment persuasion becomes manipulation? Where is the fine line between changes in human behavior by means of examples, and at what moment in time do we have manipulation? Agnes, I guess, could begin. I think everything begins with things like a difference between the cycling road and the cycling route. As I said, there is this difference between the cycling road and cycling route, and we can always look for fine lines between many things. I'm not worried about the possibility of manipulation, as long as people do this in an ethical way. And then there is this question of ethics. So it is possible that the same cheese will be green in Italy, but in Finland it will be red. So as to manipulation, I think as long as nobody tries to undermine common decisions about communal well-being, like what is red, what is green, cyclists yes or cyclists no, and as long as these decisions just reflect the behavior of specific communities, and as long as nobody tries to meddle in between with his or her own interests, I don't think manipulation is something that we should be worried about. Of course, in a way we can manipulate by providing information, because if we speak about these screens, maybe people can cycle many times a day just to ensure that this infrastructure is built in their area, but at the same time they are investing their time, their efforts. Also, there'll be a side effect, because once somebody drives along, he or she will all the time see somebody cycling. So then we have to ask, is this manipulation or not? Because the person actually pedals. Yes, that was my answer about manipulation. When I prepared visualizations, I wanted them to serve as an impetus so that people can change their opinions, can discuss specific problems, express their opinions, but I don't think that I thought about manipulation. I don't think I can call what I do manipulation. I would better describe it as a stimulus, as an impetus that invokes clashes between and among various opinions. Any comments, criticisms, maybe questions from the audience? Otto. Imagine that you have wonderful ideas, everything is nice, and then you are made responsible for their implementation. Imagine the situation. What would you do? What steps you would make? I think one of the most important steps to ensure that changes take place. I don't think I can just think about my visualizations as something that can be implemented the next day. First and foremost, we have to explain why it is necessary. And we also have to look at urban development in a holistic way, so that we can see how developments in a certain street will affect other streets and what other steps will have to be made. Because now I think new new main roads are planned, like a street parallel to the Brīvības street, and this idea is still very alive. So basically, this will be another main route that will be used for cars to drive into the city, and then at the bottleneck, at the bridge, all of them will come together, and we will not have any improvement eventually. What I definitely miss is that we don't have the structure, this consecutive step-by-step approach. And I think this is very important. I would like to add my comments, though the question was not asked to me. What I have said during various events, including those where smart cities are discussed and their further development, I think the main problem is as follows. There are many experts, many specialists that sit at the table, like architects, IT experts, consultants, and whatever. And all of them are very distinguished professionals, and nobody would doubt that. But then there is another question: is there anyone responsible in the municipal structure who would be responsible for the overall progress and the overall monitoring? And it can really begin with just one person who would have this common picture and who would think about common steps. Yeah, and that was my comment with regards to this common approach, holistic approach.
Es pareizi sapratu, ka paldies vēlreiz, jūs dzirdēt, ka jūs piedāvājat, es gaidīju šo atbildi, un šī atbildi esam redzēt.
So I expected the answer to my question, and as far as I understand, that your answer was that we need institutional change, and a person responsible at the institutional level, or a group of persons responsible at the institutional level, who would be responsible for this overall picture, common approach. Thank you, Helena.
Alija Turlaja, Sarkandaugavas attīstības biedrība šodien.
Alija Turlaja from Daugavpils Development Society. Speaking about the manipulation topic, considering the fact that we have been quite active in social networks as a local organization, I have to say that social networks is the only way to stir some emotion among people, because planning is very complicated and nobody is interested in boring things like meetings. People like dogs and cats and so on. My colleague actually draws these cartoons, and we place something that resembles a sanatorium. When we went to the city council to speak about the enlargement, the widening of Tvaika Street, I was accused that I am telling lies. But this was not our goal to tell where exactly the line will go. We wanted them to think about maybe some other options. And by placing this semi-truth in social networks, I think this was the only way to make people interested. And it was also a way to ensure that people are interested in this project. And we also did that by planting the trees illegally, of course, and the police was involved. But as representatives of NGOs, I think we have to use all options available to us. But speaking about this visualization of Tvaika Street, though this visualization is not very precise, very exact, but it still reveals, I think, the nature, the feeling, the atmosphere in the street, because it doesn't matter whether the line is here or maybe 5 meters to the right. We have to ask how this street will feel, how this street will look to people. Guntis, I have a comment on the ability of various services to cooperate. You know very well what is the structural organizational chart of our city, and you know very well that the development department doesn't even speak with the traffic department and vice versa. And this is the reason why complex issues cannot be solved. Is there anyone from these departments here? I don't know if there is anyone from the traffic department. I am from the development department, and there are several colleagues from this department. And we are still here, irrespective of the fact that the city architect organizes this event when we have to receive visitors. But we are still here, so we had to be in the office because you would come to the office, but we would not be there. But as to speaking with each other, I think that at professional level we know each other better than we would like to. Thank you. I saw that there were some other hands. Dirts? I have a very specific, concrete question, Otto. There was some information in media that the next year Brīvības Street from the bridge to Latvijas Street will be renovated. Basically, the street will be relaid, and maybe this is an opportunity to go to the traffic department and do something, because you have prepared a very nice visualization, but things that will happen next year will never allow us to be implemented. So, Otto, do you know what is going on in the city and what the traffic department has planned for the next year? And will you try to promote your idea in the traffic department by going through all this bureaucratic process? Because I don't think that your idea requires a lot of investment. So what, Otto, do you think about such possibilities? I don't think anything will change. I think the street will just be relayed and that's it. Of course, I can go to the traffic department and tell them about my idea. You can also try, and then you will see how this works. But how do you imagine things could change? Oh, I just continued some ideas that were already expressed before. I think it is very easy to prepare a new design for the traffic lanes in Brīvības Street. And it can be done, even the next week. The moderator invites the audience to use a microphone to ask questions. So maybe I can propose that we need some helpers when we speak with the traffic department. So the moderator proposes that maybe we can gather a group. Helena? I have a proposal. So if we want to discuss concrete, specific action with regards to Brīvības Street, so I have a proposal to use this conference as a platform for manipulation, positive manipulation with the traffic department. Because there is a lot of material on Brīvības Street prepared by urbanists and many other people. There are many diagrams, charts, schemes. We have had proposals for specific solutions since 2006, also in the vicinity of the new Gertrude Church. So we need an impetus that would come from a representative body like this conference. So we are here, we want this, we can create a document, and we can all sign it. And we have a guy from MIT as well. And I would like to ask a question to you, so that maybe we can discuss these issues from a different point of view. You showed a very interesting concrete slide with 14 things that will change in the future cities. So it's a very strong argument. But what cities did you have in mind? The future cities. Also cities that are in South America, Africa or Asia. There are actually no problems with these cities. I think the problem lies in the attitude, because I believe that cities as such don't have problems. The only problem is whether people think about them, care for them, and how people have imagined how the future of these cities will develop, and these are the people that live and work there. I wanted to comment on the previous discussion. I heard some things that I have heard not only in Latvia but also in other places. Basically a statement. We currently have things like now, like they are, and nothing will change. But we have a very good example here. There is a person who provides options. So maybe we can discuss these options. Maybe we should change our everyday life by seeing what can be and change ourselves and change the situation. Yes, of course, we can complain about this department and we can say that these are the bad guys. Maybe we have to change our attitude, because the department can change. Because if we get up in the morning with changes in our head, then I think the department will eventually change as well, because the city wakes up in our heads, not somewhere else. When I read about you and your CV, I saw that you have very extensive professional experience, especially with large corporations. Can you tell about a case when something quite unrealistic was implemented as a side effect, maybe to something else that was planned and designed? Do we really need future elements if you can't breathe in our streets without some breathing aids? As to the unreal, I worked in Latvia for many years in IT and marketing sector, and I was in charge of offers and solutions prepared by the state. And then I decided to complete my doctoral studies in Finland. And after these 3 years, I eventually ended up in the top IT university in the world. So many things, unreal things, can really happen. And you just have to look at me. And of course, it is very popular to claim that one is bad or the second is bad, but everything begins in our heads. And if we change what we think, then collective change is possible. But if we still return to unreal things, I currently work in a research organization where there are 5 research groups. I think there are approximately 250 employees in this building, and they come and sometimes never leave for several days because it's very interesting there. And once or twice a year, the sponsors come. And the founder organizes these meetings. Imagine that the leading, largest corporations come to this meeting and they pay $250,000 just for the possibility to come to this meeting. And the founder says that if companies do something as a part of their business, we don't do this anymore. Because the basic assumption is that something that, or everything that goes on in this building, it doesn't exist. So 200 people live in a world that doesn't exist, but it is the world where they would like to live. So I think the most unrealistic things that could happen with us is this change in our thinking, so that we can see what we have and what we want to have, and then change our attitude to get that. And I think it's quite realistic. Otto, the last question to you. Which street in Riga could be the street that we could transform tomorrow by involving the people, the local communities, without much bureaucratic burden? You also showed some examples from Austria, from Salzburg, from Brooklyn as well. So maybe we can have a street which is not just a visualization, but an actual example that has been implemented. You think like set up in the real life? I believe that this could be a street that would not hinder the traffic, because I don't think the society is ready for a revolution. It's quite clear that this would not be the Brīvības street, it would be a small, unimportant street. No, for example, Baznīcas street, maybe. Skolas street. The church was mentioned as a potential cooperation partner, so maybe we should begin with this street. Yes, but it's still probably would be very difficult, because it's very difficult to start even with these small streets. Do we have any questions from the audience? Because we will have to finish soon. 2, 3 questions. Ines from the vicinity of Brasa. I have a question to Agnes. Otto mentions that people leave the center of Riga and everyone wants to live in suburban areas. So 2 questions. What is your opinion? Why do they want to leave? And what are your forecasts if nothing will change in Riga as to the attitude of the city council? If nothing changes in their approach to how they deal with issues. I have one answer to both questions. I don't know. I can just imagine. I can imagine why people do that, and I can imagine what changes could stop this process or reverse this process. Yes, maybe it can sound very theoretical. Remember the slide with the triangle with 3 elements: attitude, the behaviors, and environment. So if people want to leave, then it is definitely related to the environment. But of course, these factors can differ from one person to another. Maybe someone wants to leave because of taxes, someone else because of children, and yet the third person because of the business opportunities. But honestly, I think we maybe have to start with the question and ask the people to get an answer. Maybe survey people who live in Mārupe or maybe some other areas that are close to Riga, and ask them why they have moved, and then we will understand, because quite often the departments in the city council keep asking this question and they don't get any answers. Of course, we can come together and invent many things. We can even say that, you know, people want to move because Brīvības Street is being renovated. So what we think is maybe relevant here. So that is the first question. And when we get answers to the first question, it will be half of the work done. And we will see that most probably half have logical reasons why they want to leave, and maybe we'll be able to stop the rest. As to the second question, I think maybe we should consider things like what is well-being in an urban environment, not only generally, but also in Riga. And then we have to combine the professional opinion with the opinions of people. Because if we showed people these visualizations, even in social networks, I think it would be very useful. It would be like a starting point. Maybe half of the street would say that we would never ever want something like this. I would like to tell about a project. We developed a mobile application for cyclists in Boston and Cambridge. The phone is attached to your bike, and the question is how satisfied you are with your cycling experience. Very good, good, not satisfied, very unsatisfied. And so we have real-time data about things that happen in certain places. And as soon as someone says that he or she doesn't like something, the application asks the next cyclist, what do you think about this spot? So it's a possibility for us to see the problematic places. Then we could make the next step, make photos and record what is wrong with this place. And then we can involve the local environment, the local communities, and ask for their opinions, for their solutions. And of course, if we don't link this with the budget of the cities, and of course we would have very expensive ideas. But if the city has a specific amount allocated to solve a specific problem, and then the people would see what amount they have for their solutions, then this could work very well. People would understand that this change could actually happen, that there is this money that will be invested. And now we have to speak about the opportunities, and then the community can vote which are the top solutions that they would like. And this also provides information to the municipality, because they know that there is a problem, there are these solutions, and they can choose the most popular probably. And if this system is set up, it will continue to operate. So on the other hand, we have a municipality which is happy, and on the other hand, we have people who are happy because the problem is solved. So people say, we want this, and this is in line with your budget, and everyone is happy. Kristap. As I am Kristaps Kaugurs, I have an ironic comment, and then I will ask a question, which is linked to this comment. It's quite ironic. Agnes told us about this new mobile instrument that is developed in a research laboratory as something new that could be used in the urban planning. There was a company in Latvia that tried to promote this in the internet environment, but last year it became really popular because a party called Unity used this application for their own purposes. So that was quite ironic with regards to things that we believe in now. But the question is as follows. We listen to stories, we listen to presentations, and I heard some people saying outside that, yes, of course, professionals can say that most of what we heard is actually not related to planning, and we can disregard that. But then also some speakers claimed or gave this impression that we are losing hope. And what I can conclude from this is that we don't know how to communicate. Professionals have to learn how to communicate, and we have to learn how to communicate. And there is this gap of communication. And can you both tell maybe how we can overcome this gap, how we can teach both parties, both sides, to speak with each other? I have thought about this question a long time, and I don't really know what to do. what I have tried to do in the practice. For example, I go to the traffic department and tell them that I can do this or that, but that they don't need it. I think people who want to come and change something, I think they feel that these people just disturb them. If there are people who don't want to change, I don't think we can change them. Because we have to have two parties. Of course, it's difficult to draw this line, but we have to have people who want to do something. But if they don't want to do anything, then what can we do? So we have these initiatives that just hit the wall. I think these gaps are created because there is no feeling that we are on the same side, because there is no feeling that there are bodies, authorities that care for the city. We don't have this common goal, and I think this gap has been created because there is a lack of transparency. As I mentioned, that brick walls separate us, and the same applies to this problem, because we don't have this feeling that we do things together. We just have two opposing parties. But if we can find solutions that make this interaction more dynamic, more transparent, that things could improve. And by this, I don't want to say that we have to open doors in offices and let everyone in. But maybe the departments from their side can think about what can be made more transparent so that people would understand the situation. And they could also maybe tell the people which are the issues, which are the places or areas where they can be involved. If I can provide some recommendations, I think we need someone who can zoom out and see the overall picture, not only including the department, but also including the people, including the urban environment, and so on. So this person would not be an expert in one narrow area, but it would be a general communications expert who can communicate with the parties, who can evaluate, assess what is going on, and who is able to get up in the morning with an image of New Riga in his or her head. That would be one step. Another step would include the elimination or narrowing of this gap by making both parties more open. On the one hand, we would be able to see what is going on in public offices. For example, city has access to various data. For example, what is the flow of people in tram number 6? This was just an example. Maybe we don't need this information, but this is an idea. Data on cyclists would be much more important. But on the other hand, this would allow to create opportunities for meaningful cooperation. For example, the bodies, the authorities can say we have 27 problems, and we understand that 26 or 25 are very professional, but there are 2 where people can work and which people can solve. For example, people like Otto. I'm not an expert in these areas. I have never worked in these departments, but this is my opinion. These 2 steps that could be made. We still have 2 questions.
I just wanted to react about the big data that you started to introduce. Maybe the keyword, as you just said, is transparency, and you started to show some simple example which go to with 2 colors like green or red. Like it's so simple to evaluate it. You can also do it with numbers. It's one thing, and maybe we could have later maybe there will be some platforms where this data will be free to be seen by any citizen. And as nowadays we have a smartphone, so it means that actually everywhere we can record if we feel good, if we feel bad, or if there is a problem around us, and so on. So it's like in real-time life you can see what's happening in the city, or on evaluate it. So maybe one point to evaluate it is to the data, and second point after the evaluation is the transparency that you can communicate, and then maybe you can avoid manipulations, because data is not there is no communicant or politician behind choosing the right word to manipulate an opinion. You just show data, and then it's everybody who can make an opinion. And maybe it could even evolve in a something which could like a crowding democracy, or some idea of voting for each project. And in that way, you maybe the work of politicians will change. It will not disappear, but it will not be about deciding in a parliament what to do, but it will be a facilitator of the project or something like this. And as well, if there is a map with all project of infrastructure and transport department, and a map of project for city development department, then in a click they could see if they are working in the same area in the same years, and maybe they could also think about communicate directly. And last point maybe about this data, that you could also show, for example, who pays these taxes or not, and maybe Google and Facebook, Amazon we could also see that they don't pay their taxes in Europe, and maybe if they will pay it, there will be money for a project in Polvetium or something like that.
Liels paldies.
So much. That was a cool summary. Paldies, liels,
Yes, thank you. It was a very good, professional summary.
Kopsavilkums. Paldies. Jā, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Andris. I have lived in Riga for much longer than I have worked in the traffic department. I have lived in 3 areas of Riga. Now I live in the area of Brasa and the vicinity of Brasa. Speaking about this conference about the question of whether we can implement changes, I have participated in every second conference, but I have seen that the content of the conference is wonderful, and I would really compliment the organizers on the choice of topics. But more or less, I keep seeing the same faces in the audience. And I also see colleagues from the property department, and there are quite many of them. This is quite good, because they make the decisions. But still, where are the representatives of the housing management company? Where are the representatives of the construction board, because they make decisions on construction projects? Quite often we have discussions between the lawyers of the local council and the lawyers of developers. And I think if we could ensure a huge breakthrough, if the team would work on the publicity of this conference to the same extent as the team has worked on the content, maybe we should send invitations to managers of companies explaining where the employees should come to this conference. Thank you. I think it's enough. But please stay, don't leave. The doors will be opened in a few seconds, and all of you are invited for a glass of wine, red or white. And referring to what you said, Andris, I think there's a very important topic that was discussed from various points of view. People, as an element in this environment, lives among various other elements, and there is this very intensive interaction. But I suspect that this interaction is not linear, so it's not like a triangle or some other shape. So I would like to invite you maybe not to think about new solutions. Maybe we have to get rid of something. And I think there is one very significant trait of character that we have to give up, and this is pride. Widow? You can continue, you can deny or overturn what I just said. I think we had very many good ideas, wishes, and I think that will definitely have positive consequences. And I hope that those who participated will bring some ideas home and will change their lives as of tomorrow. Will change not only their professional, but maybe also their personal life, their decisions. And I really agree that if we don't begin with ourselves tomorrow, nothing will actually change. I would like to express my gratitude to the panelists, to those presenters who could come to this conference. I would like to say thank you to Jānis for wonderful moderation. And as you mentioned, we now have earned a glass of wine. And if nothing bad happens, then in a year, the first Thursday of October, Andri, we will meet again. And we will meet either here or maybe in some other location, and we'll discuss topics that are actual in Riga, that are topical in Riga at that time. Thank you.